If I could sing, I'd want to sound like today's guest. You've loved him on Broadway in shows like The Full Monty, Curtains, Next to Normal, and last season's The Visit. Now he's the silver-tongued prince of the courtroom, Billy Flynn, in Chicago. Let's spend some time with Jason Danieley.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm great.
So good to see you.
It's great to see you.
You're looking good.
Thank you. I feel good. Back at the Ambassador
Back
Theater.
at the Ambassador.
Yeah.
Back in the easiest costume on Broadway.
The easiest costume on Broadway. Yes, and I'm on my third tuxedo. That's, I think, one of the reasons why the show can keep running is that...
You're on your third tuxedo in the role?
Yeah.
Why? What does that mean? What happened?
Well, they I guess they don't make quite the investment in the actor until they know that you're going to be coming back after time.
Okay.
So I had something look like these curtains, just black, just kind of draped over me for a moment. Fortunately, I have a good figure. And now, and then another one, my pants blew out during Gun because those were old
So
pants.
tell me about the night your pants blew out. First of all, I like that phrase. My pants blew out.
Oh, well, you know, I sit center stage with who I don't even know.
Is that Roxy?
Yeah, that's Roxy right there.
Right.
If I don't do that, I don't know what song I'm doing. And I sat down and I went, God, why is it so cold? I went, oh, crap, my pants just blew out.
Wow.
It wasn't on a seam because...
Which leads us to the obvious question. Does Jason Danieley wear underwear?
Well, that night I did.
Fortunately. That night you did. And I bet whenever you do that number, you will definitely be wearing underwear now.
And now I'm wearing Huey Lewis's tuxedo.
Oh.
But word came down that everything's okay. They like me enough that they're going to get me my own tuxedo. The process of Broadway.
How strange is it to be replacing a Heisman Trophy winning football star, Eddie George? I mean, that's the weird world of Chicago. Like,
it is the weird world of Chicago.
You don't go up against him for a lot of Broadway musicals, I assume. You don't see him in the audition. He's not your Black Swan for the audition trail.
No, exactly.
No.
No, it was weird because he replaced me, and then they said, when he's finished, why don't you come back? And I said, sure. I only met him briefly, but really was a really sweet guy, and did a great job. I didn't see him, but that's what everyone... if you're a really good person, they cut you a lot of slack backstage, because they do. They see a lot of people coming through that don't care about theater necessarily.
A lot of personalities.
A lot of personalities.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they have theater stalwarts that do come back and are in the show most of the time.
Right.
You know, Amber Faye Wright, you know, or Bianca American, myself, and
the great thing is, in theory, you could go back and forth to this show for like 30, 40 years.
Yeah. Brent Barrett has been doing that for quite a long time.
I mean, it's a great gig.
Yeah, it's a great gig.
It's a great, steady gig. To have a great voice is a huge asset, and I know that you have a beautiful voice. I already said I want to sound like you.
It's very nice.
I never will, but I would love to. I can lip sync to you very well, or sing with you in the shower. But it seems like kind of an easy role. Is that mean? Is it a hard role? Singing? I mean,
I think it can be as easy. You know, I mean, there are people who aren't necessarily actors who play the role, and this is only as they can hit their mark and say the words, they can be okay because it's. The material really stands on its own.
Right.
And, you know, when you go to a courtroom, the lawyers aren't particularly, trained as actors, so they're not necessarily entertaining, but what they have to say is really captivating. I think that's one of the great things about the show and the music. There are a lot of possibilities of making it a more challenging role.
Right.
Like you have this final summation trying to get the audience, the jury, to believe that, my God, she's completely innocent. She had no motives going in to kill this man, and so there's that.
Yeah, it's as much as you make it.
Yeah,
there's enough to chew on.
If
you're up for dinner, there's a lot to chew on, basically.
Yeah.
And did you ever think of yourself for this show? I mean, this show's obviously been around a very long time. You have a history of Candor and Ebb.
Yeah. It was a role that I really wanted to play.
Yeah.
But I wasn't quite sure. Actually. The show is celebrating its 20th anniversary next year. Right. And Candide, which was my Broadway debut, was the same year. We opened the same year. Yeah. So we didn't run as long, unfortunately. But Brent Barrett was Maximilian in Candide, and right after we closed, he went on the road, our first national tour. Wow. And he's been doing it on and off since then. And I've admired... again, stalwart musical theater actors like Brent and Howard McGillan. Yeah. These men who've been around for a long time that I go, oh, he played that role. I'm going to go see that show. And they actually asked me after I did Curtains if I wanted to do that. And
Which was wonderful, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Great job.
It just wasn't right at the time. When it finally came back around, the visit closing, Marin being diagnosed with ovarian cancer, it was just, I needed to stay in town and I needed to have a nice little job and see what this journey that we took through last year would be.
You've had quite a year.
Yeah, quite a year.
Quite a year.
Yeah.
Marin Mazzie, who we adore. Take us through this a little bit. So last May, right? Last May is when you guys found out?
Right. I was doing The Visit on Broadway, and she was actually doing Zorba, another Kander and Ebb show, at Encores.
Right.
And she was rehearsing and not feeling particularly well, and we thought it was one thing, and had tests just in a couple of days' time, and found out that there was a growth on one of her ovaries, and unfortunately, we know a lot of people who have been treated at Memorial Sloan Kettering, one of the foremost cancer hospitals in the country, if not the world. And immediately as we're driving to get her to the theater for rehearsal, she got an appointment for the next day and started immediately on treatment. And she actually got her diagnosis on opening night of Zorba. So, I mean, the highs couldn't be higher and the lows couldn't be lower. We're working with our favorite team, Kander and Ebb, in another great show.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're getting this news, and one of my co-stars, Roger Rees, had brain cancer, and we knew that since October. So it was just chock full of emotion, and juxtaposed with incredible, satisfying, and life-altering art that we were doing.
Well, it's hard for regular people, non-showbiz people, to imagine hearing news like that and going to work, let alone going to work, being on stage in front of people, and it's hard to wrap my head around, honestly, like going and doing the show. But maybe the show is sort of what gives you the distraction.
It does. It gives you a distraction. It also gives you an outlet for your emotions. Particularly, I think, for Marin, she was playing the leader, and she was sort of an embodiment of the philosophy of the show, which was live in the moment, be here. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. And so she started the show singing, "Life is what you do while you're waiting to die. Life is how the time goes by." And it just couldn't be more profound. And so through that show, that experience, she was able to kind of harness her emotions, which could have exploded. And while I was doing The Visit, I was doing the same thing with a great group of people that were already supporting Raj. And of course knew Marin, because most of us in that show were good friends. We all held on for dear life and moved forward, one step at a time. We lost Raj, but one of the beautiful things is where Marin was recovering in Memorial Sloan Kettering, we saw Columbia Presbyterian, where he was had been treated, and we could see his room where we had spent our last time with him. So there's that spirituality that we don't often talk about in the business because it's not entertainment, but that's sort of why Marin and I got into the business and on stage to do shows that move and help people, like doing Next to Normal. We had no idea. We knew it was a great show, but we had no idea the profound effect that subject matter, bipolar disorder, or the loss of a child, how that affects so many people. So we've been lucky to not only survive, but to have had this outlet for ourselves. It's not a religion, but it's kind of a spiritual entity.
So how is Marin? I saw you guys actually recently. How are things? I mean, she's in remission.
Great. She's in remission. She got a phone call the day before we knew she was going to the hospital to find out if she was in remission or not. And Bart Scheer in Lincoln Center asked her to replace Kelly O'Hara and King and I.
Which is thrilling.
And so we went to the doctors, and she said, "It's gone. Go back to your normal routine."
Tell me about that moment. I mean, like people go through that moment.
I don't think it's hard to explain what it's like unless you've lived the 9 months of not knowing why someone has to lay on the ground, in such horrible discomfort and pain.
Right.
How people lose their loved ones, and your mind and your emotions go a roller coaster. And then when you get to what you hope is the finish line, and it actually is the finish line. Now, granted, there are still tests to come, and we're not completely out of the woods.
Right.
Things can come back. But at that moment, there weren't tears of joy. It was just like burst of like incredible feeling. And Marin's oncologist, Dr. O'Carroll, is this very straightforward, lovely Irish woman. Never shows any emotion, just gives you the facts. And she came in beaming, and we knew immediately that it was good news.
Right.
So, and of course, in Marin's way, she gets that news juxtaposed with not only going back to work, but carrying a 3-hour show, wearing hoop skirts and working with children.
So you were married to a superwoman.
Yeah, the Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman, Superwoman, Wonder Woman, any of those superheroes.
Yeah.
So is she excited to do The King and I? Is she sort of like putting all her energy into that?
Thrilled. Yeah, and I don't think that that show or that role was ever really on her radar. And I think it's just another testament of her good genes and how youthful she is that, she's playing this role. And she's always been drawn to strong women like Mother in Ragtime, or even though Diana was dealing with mental health issues, she was a very strong woman, Clara in Passion to some extent. And so these period women that go out and do something, make a change. And this real life woman going to Siam, educating all these children and making sort of an overall change in the way that they perceive slavery.
Right.
And it greatly influenced the son that takes over for the king. And she's a staunch advocate for women's rights. And to be able to do something like this is just like making her even stronger and determined to get back. She's back at 100% right now. Yeah.
I love it. Did you get a sneak preview at home of her singing some of those songs that we're going to get to?
She hasn't done anything yet, so she'll go up to our house upstate and start working on it.
Okay, cool. So your neighbors if you have any neighbors that get to hear maybe that, that sounds of.
Yeah,
the sounds
Marin
of that.
echoing through the valley.
Yeah, I want to live near you. Free concerts. You guys do a lot of you just did a whole. I've seen photos. You did big elaborate concerts all over the world.
Yeah, we were just with the Czech Philharmonic for a week of touring through the Czech Republic and one night in Slovakia. Which sounds like a Phil Collins song, or song cut from Chess.
A B-side. Chess, yeah.
Yeah, so that was great. Keith Lockhart, who's conductor of the Boston Pops, who we've been singing with as long as we've been married, like since 1998. Right. And the Czech Philharmonic has never done Broadway songs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they said, let's find someone who knows this, and he has a history with Broadway. And so he said, we have to have Marin and Jason because they can sing, all humbleness aside.
Well, it's obvious why they'd want you, but
sing a wide swath, because we were singing Mamma Mia, Hello Dolly, Evita, It was, what they didn't, because the Czech Republic during the communist rule, musicals were forbidden. Right. And it was Khrushchev's favorite musical was Hello Dolly.
Wow.
So that was the only thing they really knew until the wall came down, and now they know sort of a lot of Andrew Lloyd Webber, a lot of more contemporary musicals. So yeah, we do that. We travel with symphony.
I've been waiting to see you do Che Guevara. I missed it. It happened there, right?
I did it there.
You do little pieces. You did you did a lot of things.
Yeah, I actually played Che up in the Forestburg Playhouse.
I missed it. What? How'd that go?
How could you miss it?
Did you have like a fake goatee?
Oh no, I had a full big old beard
you just went there.
and long hair. I just gotten back from a tour of doing Hair the musical.
Oh, nice.
So long hair.
Wow. The crazy years.
In a barn in Forestburg, New York.
Wow. So what other shows did you do in barns that we don't know about?
Oh, well, I was in a chorus line, and that was in Dinner Theater in Champaign-Urbana.
Who'd you play in that?
Mark Philip Lawrence Tabori.
Okay.
Really, Mark Anthony. Really, Mark Philip Lawrence Tabori. And I'm 20, and if I get this job, I'll work really hard.
The fresh-faced boy.
Yeah, the one who sings about gonorrhea.
Right. Oh, right. You're gonorrhea boy. Got it.
Right.
Got it. You guys met doing this show, Trojan Woman, right? Like in the Lower East Side.
And thank you for remembering that. We just did an interview this afternoon We've been married almost 20 years, and people go, I follow you all, your career. When did you first meet? Like, that's in every interview.
Just Google it on Broadway.com. You guys, it was like a showman's. You guys were both in this show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's a photo on your website I love from when you guys were in the show.
Oh, yeah.
Which we're going to roll right now. It's great. I love seeing young, boyish Jason. Like, look at this blonde. Look at my blonde
Look
girlfriend.
at what I got. Well, I already had seen Marin in Passion.
Yeah, who didn't?
And then she came.
We saw a lot of her in Passion.
Right, you saw all of her.
Yeah.
And then she came to see Floyd Collins, which...
which was huge. That was like a big moment for you.
Yeah, and Martin Moran was an old friend of Marin's.
Yeah.
They did Doonesbury, the tour,
Oh my
national
God.
tour of Doonesbury.
There was a tour?
There was.
I didn't know there was a tour.
It wasn't very long. Greg Edelman was on that.
Oh, wow.
There were quite a few people on that tour. But they met there and they did Big River, but Marty was in Floyd Collins.
Right.
And so later on that year, we did Trojan Women, but Marin and I weren't in any scenes. And during previews, the woman that played opposite me, who played Dido, was fired. And Tina Landau asked her to take over, and she did like that. And we fell in love like that.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And do you still remain like a big fan of hers? Like when you do these concerts, you get to basically travel to beautiful places and see your beautiful wife sing with her beautiful voice all these great songs. But can you still sort of like get lost in like, look at her?
Yeah.
I mean, look at her.
Yeah. Especially after this year.
Yeah.
In December, we went to San Francisco, where we performed several times for the Bay Area Cabaret at the Venetian Room at the Fairmont Hotel up on Nob Hill. And it was sold out, and this was the first time Marin would be singing since before her surgery, so probably 4 or 5 months. And we sang a lot of songs that we are known for, signature songs, and songs that we've performed on Broadway or PBS. Yeah. And there was so much more to those songs than there were before. And there was already so much more, but singing Move On from Sunday had a new...
Right.
And Marin singing back to before. And so it's been given a revival to me. I get to see her sing those things, but to know what she's experienced.
Yeah.
And now through her performances, through concert, I think we're going to reach out and talk about that a little more, surviving and how people can caregive and taking care of the caregivers, because that's, I always heard the caregivers need as much attention because they're going through something. But during the time, you're going, whatever, we gotta. And then when it's all over, they collapse. They're going, holy crap, what did I just go through? So to kind of dissect that and think about that and talk about that. And we're going to be up in Barrington Stage Company in August in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, to reprise a concert we did earlier last year when Marin was diagnosed, but nobody knew, and talk about that and explore that. Opening up that dialogue.
Right. You just mentioned Sang in the Park with George, so I have to say on camera how amazing you were in that show. I saw it with Carmen Cusack, who was here a few weeks ago. Yeah. At Chicago Shakespeare Theater, right?
Right.
Oh my God, that was like one of my favorite theater going experiences. That was wonderful,
thank you.
So wonderful.
It's one of those.
I want to see you do that
roles.
show again.
Yeah,
bring the beard. Can you do a couple numbers?
Yeah. Anytime, anywhere.
You're ready to do that role again anytime.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's one of those shows that keeps on giving.
Yeah, I need a good bootleg of that of that whole thing. You got one?
Of Sunday?
Yeah, the whole thing. I just need I need to just live.
Well, we tried to get Steve and James Lapine to come see the show, and they couldn't. So I know there exists somewhere out there, but it's probably in Stephen Sondheim's hands.
Stephen Sondheim's house. Okay, I'm not going to get that. Yeah, I would love to see you do that again. Do you have you've done so much, but do you have classic roles that you go, I really want to do that? People ask you that all the time, I'm sure.
Yeah, they do, and it kind of changes throughout time. I think because I've sung a lot of songs from these shows, but never played the part. I want to play Billy Bigelow at some point. Soliloquy is one of the most incredible pieces of music ever written for anything. Marin and I did Brigadoon for Reprise, their encores in Los Angeles. Yeah. And Tommy is a really beautiful role. And there's not too many. I prefer to keep doing new material, but out of that canon, off the top of my head, those two.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Let's do that carousel idea. Let's get that going.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like the idea of that.
I did carousel with Kelly O'Hara and Nathan Gunn with the New York Philharmonic, and I mean, Mr. Snow's Enoch Snow.
Enoch. Yeah.
And it's so fun, and to play with Jesse Mueller was great. But then I'm just like looking and going, yeah, what if those pants could fit?
The Bigelow pants.
Nathan, you're doing a great job. No. No, that's something I want to do.
It's fun that you're playing like Billy Flynn, who is sort of like, he's sort of he's like a slippery guy. Because I'm sure from the beginning of your career, it was always like the nice bright-eyed guy, right?
Right.
And that's why I love you saying Billy Bigelow, because he's a dark guy too.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're able to like sort of explore dark? I mean, and we've got to see you over time. That's the nice thing about aging, right? Like maybe the roles.
The roles change.
The roles get a little bit, a little darker and deeper and.
Yeah, my youthful face has been a detriment to where my spirit and where my older soul actually lives, and so playing that for like Candide was my Broadway debut, and then Malcolm and Full Monty was the next show.
Yeah,
it was hard to escape that. So facial hair kind of helps.
Right.
So for the last 13 years, I've been wearing at least a Van Dyke, if not a mustache. But now I'm clean shaven.
I know.
After I finished this last stint, I shaved it off because I do that after a role. I actually shave it off as opposed to just keeping it. And I said, I'm gonna keep it like this for my agents are thrilled, because once you reach a certain age, you kind of want to stop projecting that you're older. And
so your agents were like, "Thank God he shaved." Thank God.
They're like, "Get some new photographs." I'm like, "Okay." But hopefully the body of work over the last several years, people understand that I'm a little more complex than
totally. But seeing you like this, it's making me just want to see the Full Monty. God, I miss the Full Monty.
Yeah.
Why isn't the Full Monty back? We should produce a revival of the Full Monty.
It was once in a lifetime experience.
The producers messed up everything.
God damn it.
That was a big Tony race. Tony race that year.
Yeah, that year, and then when Marin did Ragtime, Lion King. So
I know.
It's like these juggernaut years. And fortunately, Full Monty had a decent run. It should have run longer, but it gets done everywhere. Yeah. Because it's not just entertaining, but it has something to say about socioeconomical and depressed cities. And
or people are just going to try to see something at the end.
See some ass.
Or that. Definitely ass, maybe more, depending on the lighting scheme at the show.
I've told you that story, right? We get
Which
to
one?
To the O'Neill Theater on Broadway, and I'm looking at the chart next to the box office to see where my parents' seats are, and I didn't even see this guy, this cloaked figure, wearing a trench coat, standing behind. He said, "The side, sit on the side." Because in San Diego, the way that the theater was, if you sat on the side, you wouldn't get blinded by the backlighting. Creepy. That's me you're talking about.
That is creepy.
Actually, he's probably talking about Andre, but.
Was Andre the one to be looking at? You have to choose in the minute.
I know.
You have to choose in the minute.
Yeah, if anyone knew Patrick Wilson at the time, they would.
Well, and do you listen to that album as much as I do? Probably not.
I don't.
Oh man, that album, that David Yazbek, he's a talented guy.
We were talking about Kathleen Freeman not too long ago, so we had to put Jeanette's number on and just reminisce about how fantastic she was.
So good. What a character. Well, anyway, I could talk to you forever, but you actually have to go get into the tux,
my tuxedo.
Your 3-minute prep for Chicago. So you're definitely going to be there through May 1st.
Through May 1st, yeah.
And then that week, Marin is going to start in King and I. It's a big week. Big week.
And then I'm doing a little mini tour in Indiana that Marin was supposed to do.
Oh, right.
A cabaret one-man show that I'm doing. And Caramore, upstate New York.
Okay.
And we're with the Boston Pops in June,
right.
doing a full evening of Broadway stuff. So there's a lot going on.
Awesome. We can follow you on social media for updates.
Yes, I'm on social media.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled that everything is so much better than it was.
Yeah,
and,
thanks, Paul.
Everyone was rooting for you and Marin, and what a crazy time.
Yeah.
But
when the theater community really came through and buoyed us in ways that we could not quantify we can't even find the words to say what the community did for our spirits. So thank you to everybody for doing that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you for being clean shaven. I'm gonna go home and listen to the Full Monty. You're gonna do Chicago. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.